How's it going, my fellow tables and small town girls? Welcome back to UTU.
The U2 podcast. It's a beautiful day.
It's a
Don't
beautiful
let
day.
it go away.
That's all the lyrics I know. Welcome back to UTU.
It's alright. It's alright. My favorite song ever.
What'd you say?
I was singing that one U2 song that I don't know the name of. It's that really big one. It's alright. It's alright.
So we have two new guests here on the channel who are they're supposed to have appeared, on the channel sooner than later. But I'm here with OmegaWalrus and Chimichangaz4life, and
Hello.
and I'm SuperSuuSGamr.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. And today we're gonna be talking about one of the worst albums ever made of all time. It's Lulu by Lulu.
Lulu is like the awesomest thing ever.
It's kind of
So
mid.
true.
So good.
It's kind of mid.
Lulu is such a bad album. It makes
Did we mention it's
Saint
mid?
Anchor.
Did we mention it's mid?
Yeah, it's pretty
Because
mid.
it's pretty mid.
It's pretty mid.
It's like actually mid.
It's so mid. Mid.
Mid.
But yeah, Lulu, the ultimate album, the unofficial sequel to Lou Reed's album, The Raven, which only true cool people have listened to ever. So,
Although Lulu is inferior because he didn't return the William Dafoe feature on this one.
yeah,
Dude, it's so
so
true.
it's automatically weaker.
Okay,
But it's like it's the more famous sequel.
but in all seriousness, though, like, does Lulu actually make for some sort of sequel to The Raven? Because I've heard bits of The Raven here and there, but not really enough to make a strong judgment on it.
Okay, so I feel like to say this is a good time to give context to what this album is and
Right.
how it was made. And so I would say towards the 90s, Lou Reed began to kind of, I guess, harpen back to the sound of Velvet Underground, and as in that kind of awkward sounding mixing. You know what I mean? Like, there's some songs where it feels like lyrically and vocally, it's like it feels almost separated and estranged from the music happening.
Right.
The
I know what
music
you're talking
usually,
Like on the first album?
Well,
You mean
just
talking about the
just Velvet
and
Underground in
Nico?
general.
Mm.
Just Velvet Underground in general. Like on this, their third album, their self-titled without Nico, there's a track called Murder Mystery, and it's a track that the vocals almost feel like in another world from the actual music going on. And what I mean by that is it felt awkward, a bit more over the top in nature. Which he went back to more in the 90s. Of course, I'm a big Velvet Underground and Lou Reed fan, so I guess that may make more sense to me. But he in the early 2000s he released an album called The Raven that was basically it besides it has having really weird songs, a lot of the tracks on there was him reading if I can actually think, Edgar Allan Poe stories. And I think this album sonically and lyrically kind of refers to the style of that album a lot. Of course, the big difference is it's not the usual Lou Reed sound. We have Metallica here.
That's right.
Which bring
so now we
their
fast
own,
forward. Now we fast forward all the way to 2009, and by this point, you could pretty much say Metallica has completely fallen off. Especially after their first 3 or so albums. I mean, I personally love like their Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. Justice for All was more of like a growing pain, I think, into the Black Album. And then by this point, they've pretty much sold out entirely, and they've lost all their hardcore thrash fans. And if you thought things couldn't get worse, they then released Saint Anger. You kind of already know the story from this point on. So by this point, neither
A
Lou Reed or
disaster so bad that they had to make a complete course correction towards something like the Black Album with Death Magnetic, except it sounded like Bud
Ray.
mixing wise.
He said, but
Good golly, Miss Molly. Um.
um,
So yeah, by this point, both Lou Reed and Metallica really have nothing to lose. I mean, so in a way, well, on top of that, both their legacies were kind of already set in stone, and there wasn't really much, destroying them or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so,
Lou Reed commented on this specifically for Lulu. He was like, well, I lost all my fans back in the days of Metal Machine music. I'm pretty much doing this for fun. My legacy's already set in stone. What else do I have
I
to lose
actually
here?
love,
yeah,
I actually love that album, Metal Machine Music.
and I think what we have here is what's considered one of music's most important artists. Super influential on rock music, particularly in the underground. And then we have Metallica, a famous thrash metal band that is known for selling out and just completely sucking now.
Yep.
Lou Reed, though, I would also like to mention that at this point in his career, his last few albums were kind of disappointments. Which, like I said, he went back to a more awkward, weird, almost alien sound to his music, which I think was harder to take in compared to the 70s and 80s, as a lot of those albums, except for a couple exceptions, was mainly a lot more pop rock, had a bit more of a mainstream fling to them that I think made them a little bit more accessible. So he's gone back to this less accessible, more alien sound, and then you put a band that's known for selling out, bringing their own sound in with it. You pretty much have recipe for a disaster album.
You kind of
Um,
do. And that's sort of how just the whole idea of these two artists, or I guess Metallica and Lou Reed, coming together and making an album together. It's like, it's like a fever dream almost. You know what I
It
mean?
is a fever dream. You have Metallica like clanking around their usual chugging riffs and such. Like Metallica doesn't do much out of the ordinary on the album, but something about Lou Reed's delirious lyric delivery just makes the entire thing an absolute fever fuck of a listen.
and I
Actually,
think,
wait, can I,
um,
can I just say something real quick? I'm sorry.
yeah,
I actually might have to disagree with you there on Metallica not doing much out of the ordinary. I mean,
Well, I mean, they do stuff out of the ordinary in terms of like they've never like what's the word? They've never done this sort of long form improv
exactly.
thing
Yeah,
before.
that's what they've sort of done. That's like totally out of their comfort zone. Both Lou Reed gets Metallica out of their comfort zone, and vice versa. They've both really pushed themselves during this album, while at the same time just having a blast working on it together. Just having the most
Yeah.
fun they have in such a long time working on a project like this.
yeah,
Although I will
and
say,
what are you gonna
go ahead.
say?
Well,
You go ahead.
I was going to add to Brian's comment, like they had a lot of fun recording that album, which they did. But at one point, Lars Ulrich did challenge Lou Reed to a street fight because sessions
That's
got so
right.
heated.
Yeah. Just
Um,
incredible.
um, and I think now we've given a bit more context to the album, and where the bands was at this point in their careers, or the band and Lou Reed, that is. I think it's also just important to mention that that's kind of where this album is so divisive. Obviously, you either have people that just listen to this weird Lou Reed sound with Metallica, who are just playing the Metallica sound, and that mix I could see at the time probably confusing audiences. You have, because at this point, like I said, Metallica was at a point where they're, even to this day, they're kind of seen as sellouts.
Well,
And you have Lou Reed, who has always strayed away from completely selling out, and as of recently has just gone straight into just weird, abstract territory.
yeah, that's the
Um,
thing
No,
though. Like Lou Reed, I don't think he ever actually cared about critical reception or like a commercial
absolutely
success.
not. He made Metal Machine
Well,
music.
right, yeah, that's sort of what you were getting at. But here's a question I have for both of y'all. Do you guys think they were expecting Lulu to receive the sort of like extreme like negative criticism that it got?
I don't think they were expecting a complete shitstorm overreaction, but at the same time, I don't think they were trying to make anything especially well received. Because, like I
I
said, mentioned
think,
earlier, that Lou Reed was already past the point of wanting people to care about his music,
I guess
and
they never even
Metallica
considered
was,
it. They never even thought about it.
yeah, and Metallica was already at a low point of their career. Like they may have wanted to get better reception, but after the absolute public thrashing they got with Saint Anger, and then the pretty lukewarm reaction that they got with Death Magnetic, I'm figuring that they probably stopped caring about public reception as much, especially where they already have a set legacy. And
yeah, I think that Metallica kind of has the Nickelback sentiment, as in, we know you guys think this sucks, but we're making tons of money over it, and we enjoy doing it.
Dude, the fact that Metallica can now be compared to Nickelback in any sort of measure or capacity is such an honor.
Yeah, for real. Um,
But okay, I don't think we
yeah,
actually gone over this, but like the actual real context behind this album though, how it came to be and why these two in particular, like for those who don't know, Lou Reed and Metallica, they both met up and performed at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think it was either the 20th or 25th anniversary Hall of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, I'm not sure
I know,
which.
And
I'm not
so,
sure which either, but yeah.
well,
I
okay,
think
so
it was
they,
two. I think it was the year Lulu came out, so whichever that one was.
okay, well, look, they both performed together. They've probably done songs from either of their catalogs. And probably at the time, those who were witnessing this, they did not think much of it. They they were just doing it for just fun. Just the whole idea of Lou Reed and Metallica performing together. That was, at the time, back in 2009 when they did this, it was just like a one-time thing that they would not have taken any further than that. And who boy were they wrong.
Yeah, can we just take a second and realize this? So yeah, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Lou Reed and Metallica together. Can we be honest? This is the missed opportunity for the single greatest Super Bowl halftime show performance ever.
Imagine
Right
them playing
there.
the fucking View at a Super Bowl halftime show.
I am
That
the
would be
Super
on.
Bowl! Yeah!
And then Justin
And then they
Bieber
get a
comes out.
they get a guest cameo from Ludacris or something.
Wait, what is it I was saying? Okay.
Beyonce coming in on like a stallion. Or
Here's one thing I have to sort of stress though. There was probably no other band that Lou Reed could have picked. Like no better band to collaborate with than Metallica. No question. Like
I
to
would
me
agree.
it just makes sense. May,
Yeah.
well actually maybe at first it's like a cog going the other way in your head. But once you really think about it, and both their mindsets lining up perfectly, I mean, the stars pretty much aligned here. Like, I don't think there exists any other timeline or alternate universe where Lulu exists. Like imagine Slayer collaborating with Lou Reed, for instance.
Yeah, that
They
wouldn't
would they would never
work
have
as
gone through
well.
with it. You
Yeah,
know?
I don't think any other metal band could have made this happen because, like you said, Lou Reed and Metallica were in the exact same mentality at this point. And also, a lot of other mainstream metal bands they had to pick from just didn't have the same, I guess, depth as Metallica would.
Right.
Like, a lot of those metal bands, like I don't know, Judas Priest or whatever. They were heavy, but they weren't emotionally heavy, I guess. Metallica from the get-go introduced a sort of, I guess, darkness into their music that some artists just didn't have.
All right, so
And
I think at this point we've already like indirectly just given off the whole um ethos of this video. I love Lulu. I love this album, obviously. Um if we haven't made that clear enough. Um I know most people are gonna watch this expecting us to trash on it, but I think at first when I found out about the album, I I just took people's word for it at first, saying it was just absolutely terrible. And then I checked it out for myself, and I just didn't really even know how to feel about it, honestly. I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. And still to this day, I'll approach albums and already thinking, yeah, I don't think I'm ready for this yet.
Yeah.
I kind
My thing about like this album though is that most people are going into it knowing that it's so bad. Everyone knows it's so bad. And then right when the album starts, you get Lou Reed saying one of the, I would say, one of the most quotable lines in the entire album.
No, it's incredible.
I would cut my legs and tits off.
I would
And
cut my
then,
legs and tits off when I think
and
of
then,
my balls.
as the song is continuing, out of nowhere, James Hetfield comes in, small town girl.
Small town girl.
And I think that moment is the moment people got filtered.
Yeah.
Like downright. Like that, I think that one moment, that right there, when James Hetfield came in, is the one moment that this album, that people realize this album is going to be divisive.
I think it's either that or
the
better yet,
3 minute mark of Brandenburg Gate is the ultimate filter.
you know,
Yeah.
for me, as of now, like Brandenburg Gate is such like an epic and epic celebratory intro to the album. Like you're starting up the first disc, and I mean the riff just gets you excited for what's to come. That's just sort of how I interpret it musically.
And now it's time for me to express my opinion that I think is going to differ from you guys. You guys love this album. Like I know, OmegaWalrus here. It's one of his favorite albums of all time. I know for a fact, SuperSuuSGamr over here loves it too.
I enjoy pretty much.
Like it.
Sorry.
I really enjoy it. I think it's a solid album, but if I have to admit, I find it to be underwhelming as hell.
Underwhelming? How so?
You come into it with this sentiment that it's so bad, that it's so terrible. You listen to it. I'm really into the start, like I said before. That intro is phenomenal. I think it sets the tone of the album really well. I think it's just such a memorable track, and then it goes into the most famous song from the album, "The View." I am the table. So true.
Oh, dude, The View actually.
Yeah, the table.
All right, so you both were saying that Brandenburg Gate was the filter of the album, the pleb filter track. I actually think that's The View.
Yeah, that's fair. When James Hetfield screams something funny.
I am the burger.
But what makes the album for me underwhelming is like after The View, you just get these. I would argue the album is just too long. The songs here are a bit too long for me. I think a lot of the tracks kind of overstay their welcome for me. And if the album was like,
bro, I
probably
just
like
dropped my freaking. Don't
if
worry
the
about
album
it.
was like 10, 20 minutes lower, I would probably enjoy each individual song more. You have the phenomenal beginning, and I think that those two songs together is just a great intro. But then you get to Pumping Blood and Mistress Dread, and they're good in their own right. Like they are really good songs in my opinion. But the only thing is, they just kind of happen for me, and then they just end, and I'm like,
Pumping
okay,
blood.
those are weird. And I'm gonna say it now. Iced Honey is one of my favorite tracks on this album, hands down.
Oh, dude.
Um,
I was
I
never, for a while back, I would have told you that Iced Honey was like one of my least favorite tracks on the album. Actually, you know what? I'll get to that. A couple things I want to add to what you're saying, though. For me, I enjoy pretty much every single track. I've listened to this album in more different ways than I thought I ever would have imagined. Like, several times all the way through. Sometimes I'll just listen to the album casually, like take the tracks apart, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
um and I know some people will throw out the argument that the only reason you like it now is because you've heard it enough times to be familiar with the album enough. Like you've conditioned yourself into thinking that it's good by hearing it enough times. I mean, no duh, you know? I mean, of course albums are gonna like either click with you later on or just grow on you over time with enough listens. That's like an inherent thing with a lot of albums. Um, but the thing with that logic is, there are also albums that there exist other albums where like no matter how many times you hear them, you still think they're total shit. You know?
Or ones that actively get worse every time
Oh,
you hear them.
exactly. Albums that like you.
Saint Anger for me, actually.
Oh, dude, Saint Anger.
Like I didn't
but
hate that album when I first heard it, but is the more chances I gave it, the more I just could not ignore that dog shit mixing going on.
Dude, if we're talking production value with Lulu, it's like a million times better than Saint Anger. It sounds so
yeah,
much
for
better.
sure.
I'm I honestly think that Lulu is Metallica's best mix album like ever.
I
Like
think it
even better
is.
mix than the
Yeah.
80s stuff. It's so well balanced. All of it just sounds really good.
I mean,
Like the
it's like,
Yeah.
distortion, the strings,
well, obviously it's better than
everything is
hmm?
everything is just immaculately mixed in that album. Even
And
the bass for once, which is kind of Metallica's like whole thing,
it's
whole
also
weakness.
impressive how they pulled it off, given that it was like performed in a live setting, I think, or I mean, like, or live setting as
Yeah, it
in
was
like, all in one take. I
it.
mean,
Yeah, it was performed improv, and whatever they got down was what they got down.
And I think saying that kind of goes into why I think the album's so underwhelming. Is while Metallica here sound good, like you said, the mixing is probably the best they've ever sounded. They don't really do much with the improv. Like I know Metallica isn't a prog band or anything,
no, they're not, and they're
but
not
they
like
don't
free
really
jazz either, nothing like that.
do anything with it. That's kind of part of uh improving is you have to, do something more than just the bare minimum of what you have. And that's my biggest complaint with it, especially is that.
Well, like, would you
And
describe it as like boring or something like that?
I wouldn't really describe it as boring. I think a lot of the riffs here, just the instrumentation is good. Like the basic melody and rhythm they have, awesome. I think they just by the time you reach like the 7 minute mark of some of these songs, it's just like, okay, we've heard this. Can you do something different?
I kind of see what you're
And
getting
that
at.
and you have
I
Lou
see
Reed
that.
spouting and you have Lou Reed spouting these just obscenities throughout the album, and it's really fun to hear them. But as the song goes on, it's like, okay,
In the
I've
end, it
heard
was
this
an
one
ordinary
before.
heart.
Yeah, we've heard you say this stuff before, Lou
Jack,
Reed. You're really
Jack.
weirding me out, man. Man, you're really pulling out the filter on us.
If I
It's like
waggle my
I
hands
just
like a
it gets to a
dog,
Timeless
point
like
that
a
these
girl.
songs
spermless like
like
a girl.
here's like I said, I do really like this album. I think it's a solid album. I'm just saying if these songs were just a bit shorter and a bit more structured, I actually think this would be, in my opinion, the best Lou Reed solo album and Metallica. It's just, and I know they're only making it for fun. I don't want to think too hard about that. They're obviously making something for fun that's intentionally this weird and all that. But I think that only does this album a detriment.
That's totally understandable, but
Fair.
even with how long the tracks go on for me at least, um, okay, let's just cover. I have a couple other complaints to cover that other people have thrown towards this album, and one thing so it seems like you have like two types of like two of the biggest complaints I hear. Well, one isn't really even a complaint. It's just that like it's so bad that it's hilarious. I feel like those who feel that way towards the album have not actually heard it all the way through. But
Well,
those who
either
have,
that,
those who have and still insist on disliking it and stuff, they just simply write it off as just boring, and that's about it. And they don't really elaborate too far beyond that.
I don't think most people write off as boring. I'd say most people just write it off as like weird and stupid, because that's what most of like Metallica's core fan base did. Another thing that kind of screwed this record over is the collaboration between the artists, like their fan bases.
Yeah.
Like part of why it got so hated is because one half of the fan base is used to, Metallica, very simple by the books metal, especially in their later days where they were putting out like these macho sludgers on load and shit.
Well, yeah.
And then you have Lou Reed spouting obscenities, and to everyone in that fan base, he just sounds like Grandpa Simpson shouting weird shit.
So yeah, I can definitely see both like perspectives here, like of either which fan base, but it actually seems more like a lot of the hate this album is getting is from like Metallica fans, like more so than Lou Reed fans, because Lou Reed fans,
Oh, absolutely,
like they're used.
I would disagree.
Really?
I can tell you now, I can disagree with that for a couple reasons. Most people that I've talked to about this album that don't like it like Lou Reed 3 times more than Metallica.
Really?
I can tell you that now.
Like you've talked with people who are Lou Reed fans, dude. I've like Lou Reed fans.
Like I've joined in with conversations about it on certain things, online, or mostly online, because I don't know many people in real life that listens to Lulu, because I'm a loser. A lot of them they like early Metallica just like most people do, and then they don't really care for later stuff. And then Lou Reed, they like his early stuff and not the later stuff. A lot of the time, those people preferred Lou Reed way more. And like I said before, I think a lot of people come to this album with the sentiment that it's bad and dumb on purpose.
Or
and
even
then
that, it's like
the album really gets started,
bad.
They're like, yeah, this is lame. This is just lame. It's pointless to listen to. There's nothing going on here. It's just dumb, ridiculously bad, laughable bad. I think a lot of those people just simply don't like the album, or they've conditioned themselves to just agreeing with everyone else without even giving it much of a chance to begin with.
Yeah, a lot of people did that. I used to do that. Like whenever I first heard it. Yeah.
Everyone's done that.
Yeah, because with like Saint Anger and other bad albums like that, I've just automatically been conditioned to think, oh, this must be bad. Everyone says it's bad. But most people end up just trashing on the album without actually hearing it.
Well, another complaint I hear is that Lou Reed's vocals, they don't match the instrumentation all that well.
Which I guess they kind of don't.
I mean, they don't, but that I don't really see that as an issue, because already the songs have this weird, strange atmosphere to them.
They do.
That I think that's an example of how the album works.
Yeah, it's a bug, not a feature. If you don't like the feature, then you just don't like the album.
Come to think of it, like for what it's worth, in terms of experimentation on Metallica's side on this album, you do have these like these moments of like chamber music, instruments and stuff, and this noisy guitar feedback at points. Um, like I hear bits of that on The View, and oh, dude, if I could just jump straight to "Cheat on Me" for a second, I think the first 3 minutes of that track are absolutely incredible. Just like the intro for it, and the melody that plays when the violin comes in at the start, and you can
Okay,
actually
we're
hear
gonna
the
talk
bass.
about.
That's
Oh, you can hear bass on a Metallica album.
dude, I know
Ba-doing,
it's crazy.
ching, ba-doing.
I don't know
Uh,
who does the orchestration and stuff on this album. I don't know if that's Reed or Metallica or whoever, but whoever included that, I think they kind of made the entire album, because while I do like Metallica's riffs and such, I think those little orchestral touches that they add in the start and end of songs just make the entire album flow so well together.
Oh, they do. They add like a lot of depth and flavor to the songs, I guess, if you want to use
But
the
one of my
artsy fartsy pretentious terminology. But
one of my
it's just the
favorite uses
truth.
of it is Pumping Blood, when it starts out that violin riff after coming off of the nasty snarling track that is The View. It's
yeah,
like
and like
a
that's what like I
really
was
nice
kind of.
transition.
That's kind of what I was going off earlier. Is like the start of the songs, the basic, uh, where the songs start. You know, it's the basic structure what the song is going to be. Usually, that's how a lot of these songs on this album work. Intro begins to go into what the rest of the song is going to sound like. I mean, let's be honest, that's kind of what they do a lot with these
Yeah.
tracks. And it's like I agree. Like the intros of these songs are so good on their own, and then like that's as the song goes on, it just starts to kind of drag and just feel like it's repeating what it's already done before.
Hmm.
Which necessarily wouldn't be a bad thing if these songs were shorter, but they're not. There needs to be a bit more going on with the songs at these lengths. And like you said, Cheat on Me. That song, because of my complaints already, I think is the weakest track on the album.
Oh, really?
Which
You
is
think that like the like the riffs that just drag on for like another 10 minutes or so, like that's the most detrimental on Cheat on Me?
yeah.
Because that was like one of my
I
favorite tracks on the album.
I
Yeah.
lyrically also that song I'm not too crazy on. I think it's probably the least memorable lyrically, if I'm being honest with you.
Why do I cheat
Uh,
on
like
me?
the beginning, I remember the beginning, like what you just sung, but I don't remember anything else.
Why do
Is
I cheat on myself?
I don't remember much about the song
Well,
outside of that, and like
there's my best James Hetfield impression right
I
there for you.
re-listened to this album today in preparation for this, and I don't remember a thing about this song besides the beginning. And something I went off earlier, track like Ice Honey, I didn't really get to elaborate on why I said that's one of my favorite tracks on the album, is because the song is just the band just going at it and having fun. The song is normal length compared to a lot of the others on this album, and I don't feel like it drags at all. I think it's just a fun, great tune
It
that doesn't
is.
try to be anything weird. It's just them making a fun song.
I
Yo,
ex-
these guys be pulling out the pop metal experimentation, bro.
exactly. There's
Proto
no
pop
like
metal.
there's no it, like it's like the least off-putting and like disturbing track, I guess you could say, on the album. It's a lot more tongue in cheek. And the see if the ice will melt for you. I love that.
I'm actually surprised that most people don't cite Ice Honey as a highlight. Like the people that don't like the album, I'm surprised that most people don't like cite that as one of the few decent songs off of it. Because it's not
Yeah.
too weird or anything. It just sounds like a Metallica song with Lou Reed singing it.
Well, yeah, it's
It's
still
just
got Lou
so
Reed on
fun.
it.
Um, but I will say, even if my complaint over the length, I can at least say that the last 3 tracks in the album are all phenomenal.
Oh, dude. I was gonna get to that, but a couple things I want to add. Like, I think the reason the tracks being as long as they are isn't a problem for me is because like I'm used to it. Like I'm used to long songs and like very like repetitive grooves and rhythms and songs. Um, I don't know. And on top of that, I'm used to Lou Reed's voice. I mean, I'll always cherish, VU and Nico and White Light, White Heat, some of his earlier material. And so hearing these things, it like it just doesn't bother me or anything like that.
Well, I mean, as someone who has not heard much Velvet Underground or Lou Reed, and as someone who does not frequently listen to overly long music, the length still doesn't really bother me. I think that they use every minute they spend very well. Like I don't think it wastes a single minute. I love where they go with the songs.
And I could definitely imagine them uh, improvising in even more different ways. But I think even for how long they are, when you just sort of uh, take them at face value, look at them each. I mean, I think each track has its own unique qualities going for them um, that like all distinguish themselves from one another. I mean, Pumping Blood and Mistress Dread, they do sound probably the closest together, but I also kind of view those tracks as like two-parters. Like Pumping Blood flows pretty well into Mistress Dread, and then for like the rest of that track, they're just shredding for the entire thing. And he's like, which track is it? Where he's like, I'm spermless like a girl. Isn't
That's
that?
frustration.
Oh no, you're right. That's another one of my favorite tracks. I
Yeah.
want
Which
you
is
as my
funny.
wife.
See, it's funny you point out that uh, Cheat on Me is one of your favorite tracks, and that you just said that uh, Frustration's a standout. I think those are the 2 weakest tracks on the album. I actually do.
Wait, which ones again?
Uh,
Frustration and
Frustration and Cheat
Yeah,
on
me.
Me are my least favorite tracks on the album.
I get frustration, but I love or not. I get cheat on me, but I love frustration.
Frustration
The
is
entire
so
second,
creepy.
the entire second disc, I think, is what makes this album what it is. Like the first disc is really good. I love it to death, but I don't think you get what you get with Lulu without that second half
It's
because
it's really
the
just unsettling.
the emotions you hear on that first disc are not only amplified on the second one, but are, I guess, explored in more detail. Like the visceral levels of anger and disgust that you would get out of songs of Pumping Blood or Mistress Dread are just put on full blast for songs like Frustration and God fucking forbid Little Dog.
Oh, Little Dog. Um, yeah, Little Dog is another good change of pace. It's just a quieter acoustic track with just Lou Reed on it.
Yeah,
Um,
but the things that Lou Reed says on it is just horrifying.
they are. No denying that. In fact, I think for those reasons alone, again, like those from the perspective of those who hate it, they would definitely um, point that out as like the worst track automatically. Just like process of
Little Dog,
elimination.
yeah.
Um, it,
I wouldn't.
it's hard for me to say. I think it would also be my personal least favorite track, not for the disturbing subject matter, um, but because it feels like, well, it's just like a process of elimination, really, if anything. I mean, on one end, it feels like a less significant track on the album, a lesser significant track, but at the same time, it makes for a good bit of variety. And on top of that, like the whole thing as a whole, across 70 minutes, you get like I go through a wide array of moods across this album. I'm having a good time with it. I'm just having just an absolute nightmarish time with it. Dude, Dragon and Junior Dad, what a way to go out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, like I'm not that big on the first half of the second, for the album. I guess the third quarter, I should just say. But
Yeah.
those last three tracks, honestly, are really awesome together. I think the beginning and end is its strongest, is when the album's at its strongest.
I can get
For
behind
sure.
that.
I definitely agree with the ending.
Oh yeah. I guess we'll say that like the last track in particular.
Yeah, that's its
conversation.
own discussion.
Hey, if I could throw another hot take out there, I kind of think that Lulu is the heaviest Metallica has sounded in a long time. Like
Emotionally, absolutely.
no,
And even instrumentally at times.
I'm talking about like heavy playing. It's
Yeah, that's fair.
It's heavier than Load and Reload, of course. It's kind of heavier than Death Magnetic, honestly. Like I just think
Death Magnetic is not fucking heavy.
I think the poor production really sucks the life out of both Saint Anger and Death Magnetic. Like
the Unforgiving 4.
Death Magnetic might as well just be the Black Album again with shitty production.
Well, the Black Album actually has its heavy moments, or at least headbangiest moments, like Sad But True.
Yeah, it does.
That's like the heaviest they.
It's not going to scare your mom heavy,
No, absolutely not. But like last time they sounded this heavy was probably Master of Puppets, which was literally back in what 1986.
Yeah. I mean,
so again, like Lou Reed definitely brings out something in them for sure.
Yeah. I like to think of it as Alice in Chains' two best albums, as far as I'm concerned. If Dirt is the rest of Metallica's discography, or the good parts of it, like the thrash metal parts of it, the self-titled would be Lulu, because it's heavier, especially emotionally, but also instrumentally.
Wait, which album are we talking about? Wait, what?
I was comparing it to Alice in Chains' discography.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've only
Master
heard
of Puppets is like Dirt,
well, I've
and
only
then
heard like
self-titled
Dirt,
is Lulu.
Facelift, the Tripod album, and Jar of Flies.
That's my main Tripod. But let's move on from Alice in Chains. They're not the subject here.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
still, though,
I can see.
Sorry.
No. Did you just interrupt me during my
I did.
Kick him out.
What are you gonna do
it's
about
a beautiful day. Don't let it get away. Did Lou Reed and Brian Eno ever work together?
I don't know if they did.
Good question.
They did. That'd be swagger. Imagine
I would not be
Brian Eno
surprised if they
producing
did.
Lou.
All right, so I'd say also Lulu is probably one of the most forward-thinking albums. I mean, it's like there's definitely a lot of, say whatever you will about it, it has like a lot more heart and ambition to be found in it. Like Saint Anger, on the other hand, like I could definitely I could see people defending Saint Anger, but I just think that album, there was no real heart and soul to be found on that album. It was
group therapy.
Yeah, I mean the album basically made for like a therapy session for them. It's practically the band taking a huge step backwards,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we are to compare the two albums that are considered dog shit in Metallica canon, I think that Saint Anger is an unhealthy way to cope with your life by taking it out on your band members and acting shitty and also making bad music. While Lulu is, I guess, sort of a reflection on past trauma in a way.
I can see that, but like So with Saint Anger, like the album is shit because they didn't care about making it good. They just cared about putting it out there and not much else more beyond that. Um
Saint Anger is the baby a broken family has to keep the marriage going. It does nothing except make the child worse and the relationship even worse.
like you could say on Lulu that they didn't care about making it good, but I don't think that's really the case either. I mean,
They cared about making a good project. They just didn't care about whether other people thought it was good.
right, right, exactly.
They put a lot of heart and soul into Lulu.
Mhm.
Lou Reed at the very least. I'm sure Metallica did too.
But okay, so we've gone over the album musically, contextually. What about the lyrics? So I feel like
The lyrics are its own real weird cup of soup.
right, yes. What about like the
So what?
actual the concept of the album? I know that the lyrics by Lou Reed were inspired by the
Yeah,
either
yeah,
book or play Lulu by Frank Wedekind, if that's how you pronounce it.
yeah. Like the Raven, it was based on old plays from the past, and trying to find it. Lulu is kind of like Chimichangaz said, sort of an extension of the Raven, whereas that one focuses on stories by Edgar Allan Poe. This one, or Lulu, focuses on two plays in particular by Frank, whatever his name was. I can't pronounce German names.
Yeah, me neither.
And the plot is really fucked up. I looked into it before we started this episode,
Yeah,
and it's
so
about
like as far as I know, it's about this German ballerina and there's like death and sex involved.
well, I don't think she's a ballerina. She may have been at one point, but I think the ballerina thing is more imagery than anything. But basically, she started out as this like homeless girl who was living with, I think it's her father. That part's not made entirely clear. I think it's supposed to be her father, but I'm not sure. And then this rich guy like saves her from the streets pretty much and decides to like hook up with her.
Oh God.
And then and
How does that
then
go
to
down?
keep and then to make sure he can make money or like keep making money, um he like what's the word? He like sells her off to another guy to be his wife,
That's
but
awesome.
keeps in touch but keeps in touch with her. So it's like a paid affair pretty much.
Mm,
And then the other guy that the guy that she gets sold to brings in this artist to do self-portrait of her, and while he's away, those two fuck, the artist and the Lulu girl.
Bruh.
And
Yeah.
then
I apologize over any insult I've made on this album. This is one of the greatest albums of all time. Sorry.
um
Top
and then
five.
once the rich dude comes back and sees what's going on, he kills himself. I think he shoots himself, I'm not sure.
Where does this come in? Like lyrically on which track? Or is this like touched on?
um yeah, I'm trying to give a basic overview of the story before I go into how Lulu connects to all this.
Okay.
And then after that whole ordeal, she gets married to the artist, and then she cheats on him too, and he kills himself. And then she ends up back with the first rich guy, and then after she cheats on him and he doesn't know much about her habits, he kills himself. It's a lot of suicide.
Dude.
And then
Baller lyricism.
that is the end of the first act, or the first half of the play. In the second half, she gets into a lesbian relationship with this convict lady. I don't know what happens to her, but at the end of the story, the main character ends up getting killed by Jack the Ripper while he says that he loves her.
My
Now, how
balls.
does and now as
So
far as the what?
So where does the Master of Puppets play in all this?
Master
Okay, so as far
Foops.
as that's the basis of the story that Lou Reed is working with. I think Lou Reed focuses way more on that first half. Like there are no lesbian convicts or Jack the Rippers in the Lulu album.
Right.
I think it more focuses on her initial like run of cheating on people and the bad feelings and jealousy that she inspires in everyone that she gets with because
So
of
it
that and just her general behavior.
so it's more like Lou Reed's take on that play.
Yes, pretty much.
What
It's
he
That
took
sounds about
from it,
right.
how he
yeah.
felt about the characters.
Yeah, it's a loose interpretation as of that play as envisioned by Lou Reed.
And Metallica, who's probably never heard of it before, is just having the
Now,
time of their lives playing.
they don't know jack shit about what's going on.
Well, I'm sure
Like,
much later
the,
on they would like better realize the story he's trying to tell through the lyrics.
I mean,
And of
maybe,
course,
but like, I think both of you know this already, but Kirk Hammett and James Hetfield, cried in the studio to
that's
the lyrics
right.
of Junior Dad. Uh, and they related that to their own personal experiences with their fathers, and not the fact that Lou Reed is writing this album from the perfect perspective of one of the people in the story who just feels disappointed in himself for ever letting this girl cheat on him to begin with.
So you have these lyrics that actually do tell a story, but like at the same time they're pretty interpretive. Um,
Yeah, they are loosely based on the source material, but I think Lou Reed generally leaves it up to interpretation.
yeah,
Like,
if
yeah, like however you feel about the album, I guess is what he wants you to feel about it.
yeah,
Well,
if
at least
the
we know. At least we know he sees her as a small town girl.
Who wants to
This is
give life a
important.
whirl?
guys,
This is
you
important.
know, sometimes when I really think about it, at the end of the day, I think I just might be a small town girl who wants to give life a whirl.
So true.
Feeling you, I'm feeling you.
I
Hmm.
I just am. I really am. But yeah, I can definitely
Do
see
you
that.
also
If
feel like cutting your legs and tits off when you
probably
think of Boris Karloff in Kinski Under
in
the
the
Moon?
dark of the moon. That's
Yeah.
right. So true, Vesti. But yeah, I think the
Yeah.
lyrics they're also interpretive at the same time. If the Metallica band members crying is anything to go by,
Yeah.
and
Lou,
that's just
like that is the source material that Lou Reed uses is that really weird fucked up story that a German guy wrote. But I think at the same time he also intends that story or the canvas of that story to be a much broader way to interpret the album.
Yo, we're
Mhm.
the film adaptation though.
There's probably been film adaptations of plays, but
Yeah, probably that play.
yeah, but
There's probably one somewhere.
yeah, I feel like he uses this story to or communicate general feelings of confusion, frustration, jealousy, good old stuff like that.
the usual stuff. And it's yeah, it's
Like
definitely
in
not,
frustration when he feels spermless like a girl, as he says.
dude. It's definitely not like Metallica lyrics. I mean,
Hell no.
no, it's not. I mean,
Like Metallica was, I guess, sort of one of the first of their kind to get as heavy as they were lyrically about like personal suffering and like even war related things. But in terms of how dark the lyrics is, Lou Reed, I don't know. I'm a little concerned for him sometimes.
well, I
I mean,
mean,
he's dead and all that shit now, but
You know, his lyrics. That's the thing about his lyrics. When you listen to Velvet Underground and all of his solo career, you begin to realize that this is just a normal thing about Lou Reed.
oh, it is. Yeah,
yeah.
He
it
doesn't he
pretty much is.
doesn't hesitate from dabbling into disturbing lyricism and ideas ever.
Dude,
Yeah.
If anything, that's what he's been all about since the beginning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I argue that.
Like
Yeah.
Lulu is not even that far a step out for him, weirdly.
OmegaWalrus,
The
have you listened to Sister Ray?
you know,
Like that track alone, not just the music itself, but the lyrics.
He's sucking on my ding dong.
He's sucking on his ding dong.
I had to do it sideways.
I mean, I know that Lou Reed has always been, I guess, what's the word here? Not whatever the opposite of hesitant is to delve into the world of the dark and disturbing. Like one of the songs on his debut album is literally called "Heroin," about heroin addiction. In the 1960s,
comparison.
well,
There is a song called Heroin, bro. That's deep.
well. Look, hold on now. It's that he made these songs in the 60s at a point where these are not really topics you discuss in music. He was like a pioneer of, I guess, discussing more heavy subject matter.
Yeah, I see that.
Exactly, yeah.
And most definitely, you do hear a lot of, like I said previously, at this point of his career, he had been going back to his roots in terms of uh, how his music just sounded in general. Very much, this album does very much have this kind of Velvet Underground feeling to it, especially
Lulu?
White Lot
Velvet
White Heat.
Underground feeling?
I would argue, yeah, I would argue it has a very much like a White Light, White Heat feeling in terms of the band knows they're making something just really dumb, but they're having fun doing it.
I never
And
thought of White
also,
Light, White
well,
Heat like that.
also in let me say this, and when I say that, I mean the White Light, White Heat has just some weird, obviously a bit comedic songs that lyrically can be disturbing.
Sucking on my ding dong.
Particularly a track like if I can think of the name, Lady Godiva's Operation, if that's the name. I'm kind of dumb right now. A song like that, while it's not Metallica sounding, what I mean is like it almost feels like uh Metallica is playing in spirit to Velvet Underground. Obviously, different time in music. 20, early 2010s was a way different uh, time in music than the late 60s. And you can definitely hear that because late 60s, how Metallica sounded, you couldn't do then.
Oh, no.
So when I say that,
Right.
I mean more like in spirit.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
the album is clearly intentionally they're just having fun, making what they want, with some hint of genuine emotion
Genuine emotion.
and genuine interesting ideas throughout, just like what Heat was. They're completely different albums, tonally and sonically, but I think that that's a good album to kind of compare it to with that in mind.
They're like different in its like time period and its era.
Hell,
But
I can definitely probably hear some of their third album, their self-titled, in this as well. I'd actually could say it's kind of a mix of both of those albums. In terms of White Heat's more darker, louder moments, as opposed to their self-titled, more calmer and atmospheric moments. I think that's a good way to kind of harken it back to Velvet Underground. And that's something that I said earlier, I think that at this point of his career, he was harkening back to that idea. I think that was a good way to kind of explain what I mean by that. So yeah.
well, hey, all right. So, is there anything we want to touch on with Junior Dad now or Dragon?
Oh yeah. I think those two
Well,
tracks should be talked about together as a bit of
yeah, I was about to say we should
uh,
probably get Dragon in on this too, because I feel like those two tracks together, or they can't really be talked about without the other in context. I don't
Right.
think.
I mean, for one thing, both
because
tracks together is like the ultimate 1-2 punch for this album. And if you like hated this album before and you got up to these last two tracks, then by that point, like if those tracks alone don't make you like reconsider things, then pretty much nothing will.
yeah,
Because like
and
those two tracks are like two of the best songs Metallica ever did, and Lou Reed.
Like, here's the thing. Dragon, I would argue, out of the more overly long tracks, is the only one that I think the length is perfect on. And one that I think if the album was, was more about what I was talking about, a lot of the songs were shorter, that Dragon to me would be way more impactful. Definitely. I
fair
think
enough.
I think Junior Dad, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but I think Junior Dad, no matter what, is perfect the way it is. I think Dragon, though, even if it goes fantastically with it, would have been better if the album was more of what I wish it was.
That's
So
fair, but at the same time, Dragon is still one of the absolute longest songs on the album. It's only
yeah.
15 seconds behind Cheat on Me. I think it still feels like
Oh
an
yeah,
ultimate build.
How long is the track
yeah.
again?
I
It's not 20 minutes. It's
That's Junior Dad.
right.
Dragon is 11:10 and Cheat on Me is 11:25.
Okay.
And as for Dragon, I think Dragon is like the ultimate culmination of the subjects that the album is talking about: feelings of jealousy, inferiority, bitterness, confusion. I think it's like everything in the album coming to a big head, pretty much.
It's literally just like dragging these nuts across your face. The emotion, feeling of
The emotion.
True.
Dragging these nuts across your face.
True.
That's awful. I'm gonna have to kick you. You're never coming back to this podcast now. I'm sorry.
I
Like
just
my
rate your music.
first.
You're never coming back. Stay
I just
mad.
rate your music.
Okay, shut up,
I
rate
use
your music,
Discord.
boy. Um.
Shut up, album of the year.
This album's mid.
Hey, one other
Y'all got
question.
me sidetracked on what the hell I was going to say.
Okay,
All right. The first time I listened to Dragon, Lou Reed was genuinely scaring the fuck out of me with both what he was saying and the tone of what he was saying, because it just felt so hostile. I think that's
doesn't
kind of the point.
doesn't the lyrics of Dragon also refer back to The View and
It
put The
does.
View and they put The View into an even better context than before.
Right.
So it makes the
They
album
book in
feel
the
even
album.
more
Like everyone was wondering why James Hetfield was the table. Well, James Hetfield is the table because someone is using him as a table. They're treating him as lesser.
Like that scene from The Lighthouse, where like Willem Dafoe's a doggy now, but instead he's a table and not a dog.
Yeah.
But I like the way it refers back to The View. It makes the album feel a bit more conceptually complete and cohesive.
Yeah. It it all comes full circle on Drag. It's like all these emotions that have building throughout the entire track list finally just boil over. And whoever Lou Reed is playing in the sound just gets sick of all of it. Which leads nicely into Junior Dad,
Very
which I
nicely.
guess is like lament and regret for even letting this happen in the first place.
Would you come to me if
And I
I
think
was
most of
half
all,
drowning? Sorry.
I think most of all that Junior Dad has more universal implications. Like I think you could apply all of these songs to something else, but I think Junior Dad most especially you could universally relate to something or other. Seen by the fact that James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett literally fucking cried to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they realize they've never made anything this genuinely good in their career.
True.
Dude, roasted.
Why'd you say it like that? Dead roasted.
Roasted.
This is what Lulu does to the homies. Back away. Don't get near this
Beware of
album.
the pipeline.
Beware of the pipeline. The Lulu pipeline. It's like inserting estrogen into Brian right now.
I feel like Lulu would be like the final album of the pipeline. I feel like it would
What?
start with the. I feel like the pipeline would be like start with the Velvet Underground Nico and then end with Lulu.
I've
Oh,
lost
absolutely.
it. I've totally lost it.
Yeah. All disconnect from reality is when you hit Lulu. So, like, all those orchestral snippets that were present throughout the album are used in full force on Junior Dad, which is another way that the album comes full circle in these last two songs, reintroducing past elements and whatnot. And, it builds with Metallica doing whatever the fuck, But my favorite part specifically in Junior Dad, I think it's about 7 or 8 minutes into the song once the actual song part has ended. It goes into a full orchestral ambient piece, and the rest of the 10 minutes are just
It's just
strings.
It's just
Yes.
10 minutes straight of strings, if not longer.
Yeah, and I think it's not only a beautiful farewell to not only to the album itself and what it represents, but also Lou Reed's career.
Lou Reed's career, Lou Reed's life, and with that said, in a way, it kind of makes for Lou Reed's Black Star. There, I said it.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
No, I mean
overrated.
Overrated.
Ooh.
And mid.
Mid.
Did we
mid?
mention this album's mid, everybody?
It's so mid.
It's so dies of mid.
Mm-hmm. I think you all have heard that quote by David Bowie when he was like talking to Lou Reed's newly widowed wife, and he was talking to her about how this is Lou Reed's best album ever.
Wasn't there also a member of the Melvins that said that it's one of the best things Metallica ever did?
I didn't know that. I knew about the David Bowie thing, but I didn't know about the Melvins thing.
Yeah, like David Bowie said before, that was like a masterpiece, and it'll be better looked back on more fondly with time. And do you think that's starting to slowly become the case more and more?
I think so, yes. Hopefully. It's not coming in full effect yet.
No.
But if you look into the comment sections of songs like Junior Dad or even Dragon at this point, you will start to see a lot more positive comments. Especially for Junior Dad. There are a lot of people that will say that the entire album is just completely overlooked unfairly, which I think it is.
Oh, yeah. And there's also that set of people that point out that Junior Dad, whether you don't like the album or not, is genuinely an amazing song.
Yeah. Even people who don't like Lulu like Junior Dad, and there is very good reason for it, I think.
Sounds about right. But a lot of people don't even get that far into the album to experience Junior Dad.
Most people do quit pretty much after the video. Probably somewhere in Pumping Blood or Mistress Dread, if you're lucky. Which is a shame.
I definitely think that it's one of the best songs Lou Reed and Metallica both have ever made, for sure.
Absolutely. Honestly, I would honestly put Junior Dad as a candidate for best song ever written. I would genuinely say that.
Best song ever written. I can see it, but that's like a hard stance to take.
I genuinely believe it. I think that song is a masterpiece and there's nothing else like it.
Say hello to Junior Dad. The greatest disappointment. I think it's just,
We're literally talking about the album.
I think it's also the greatest mid.
The greatest mid.
I think it's I think Chimmy, would you say that out of all the tracks, the sort of like repetitive, the repetitive grooved riff approach is probably best executed on Junior Dad. Um, because it like perfectly like gets into like this locked rhythm, this riff
Yeah.
that like
I I would argue that Dragon and Junior Dad, and that issue I have with the rest of the album, I can make an argument saying that I think those songs are so lyrically familiar to me compared to the rest of the tracks that I have this main issue with, that I think I can forgive it, because as an out as like a as an ending like that, I think it's perfectly fine the way it is.
mhm.
That, like I said, Dragon I would think is more impactful if the rest of the album wasn't so long and took forever to get to it. Uh, and I definitely think the length of both of those songs are fine with me. I'm pretty set on that.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
I definitely, I definitely say that. Um, and I definitely say that this is a fantastic album, though. I do think it's a really awesome album. It's just one that I feel like could have been better for me. I'm already someone that doesn't really like overly long albums. I think a good album length is always 40 minutes, a double album at most like an hour and a half.
definitely. And even then
And,
with
and this
the
album is actually, the funny thing about that is this album actually is an hour and a half.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a double album.
And that's the thing. So I would actually probably argue that really in the end, my main problem is just the length of the songs. I wish there could be more room for either just other songs or just make it the length of like an hour or so.
Man,
I
I'm really
genuinely don't
not
think it
sure at
should be that
all.
long.
I'm really not sure at all what they could have done
Which is
to.
funny because most of the length comes from Junior Dad. Most of that,
Sure
and
Kind
do.
of does.
literally the entire half an hour almost just comes from Junior Dad.
Yeah. Like it's a 90-minute long album about, and a third of it is from Junior Dad and Dragon.
So maybe in the end, I could be saying that I wish the songs were shorter. Maybe in the end, there's really nothing I could do about that. It's just something I don't like about the album. It's just,
It's
I feel
fair.
like a lot of the songs just drag for me. I think that Lou Reed, with a lot of these songs, can start to overstay his welcome. I don't really think that a lot of these songs hit me the same way they do you guys, which, more power to you. I definitely am not going to shame you for liking an album that's genuinely disliked for just being weird.
Yeah.
So I definitely do.
The
I really should give this album a bit more time with me. Probably give it a lot more listens than what I've done, but the only problem is the length that throws me away from doing
Yeah, there are
which is
definitely
that.
fair.
albums like that are just really long that I guess take more time to really sink your teeth into, and this is definitely one of those instances. It's like it's an album not for the faint of heart. I mean, I know it's not going to be for everyone. I mean, of course, I don't think any. I think those who are just they're only really well versed in like Metallica's older material and other classic metal bands like it. None of that is really going to prepare them for something like Lulu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I think that's a pretty good sentiment to end off on.
It is.
Yeah.
Uh,
That
but yeah, just a fantastic album. I pretty much a masterpiece. I'd give it like at least a 9. If I had to put a numerical rating on it. But
really, I really do think it's probably for me an 8 out of 10. But that's a put an asterisk on that. Really, this is definitely an album that have a hard relationship with. At one end, I want to just love it and embrace the things I don't like about it and just accept the fact that that's just what makes it so freaking memorable.
it's
And
off. It's off-putting.
and
It's jarring.
yeah,
It's hmm?
It's well, I was agreeing with you. It's
Yeah,
definitely all of those things.
it's an album where its features are definitely something that puts some people off. Like even the people who do like it, like Chimmy, who thinks the length puts it off. It's I wouldn't call it a bug. It's just more a feature, and whether or not you like that feature is just how you
Yeah.
prefer the album.
And
Yeah.
in a way, I think a lot of the reasons why, like a lot of the reasons that that I went over for why I enjoy it could also be why other people hate it, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But I don't
like
see.
Lou Reed shouting obscenities at some unseen audience.
Well, I also don't
I
see
get how
how
that can
like.
turn people off.
Well, I don't see how those attributes of the album really like equate to it being, bad, technically speaking, you know? Yeah, I don't see
I just don't
how
think
anyone could say this is worse than Saint Anger.
that's true. At
I
least this
really,
album
I
has some
really
passion
can't.
and
I don't
heart.
see it. But
Saint Anger is just,
dude, what would you give it?
huh? Oh, me.
Yeah, you.
On a numerical scale, I would give it a 10. I fucking love it. It's one of
So,
my favorite albums of all time.
so it's mid.
Yeah, very mid.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. All
Yeah,
right, y'all. Well, thank you so much.
mid as frick.
Thank you all for watching. Does this wrap up the review?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, hope this
Yeah,
hope we've sort of given you like a better perspective on the album. Because this album doesn't get enough praise, especially on YouTube. Because I've definitely seen a lot of reviews for it that, to me, like I disagreed with so hard that we definitely had to step foot into this and sort of really shed better light on it.
Some kind of nature. Some kind of my balls.
sucking on my ding dong.
Busy sucking up my balls.